Good evening. Welcome to the May 8th, 2024 Exeter Township School District Committee of the Whole meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Fike, can you take roll call, please?
Jason Mell,
Present.
Julia Schaefer,
Present.
Deborah Bloom,
Present.
Dr. Andrea Battler,
Present.
John Fiddler,
Here.
Dr. Ann Herring, Timothy Morgan,
Here.
Travis Odom,
Here.
Allison Wilson,
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Thank you, Mr. Fike. In addition to the 8 board members in attendance this evening, we're also joined at the board table by our solicitor, Sean Lockinger, and members of the school district administration, including Dr. Christy Haller, superintendent, Mrs. Dawn Harris, assistant superintendent, Dr. Josh Hoyt, director of teaching and learning, Mrs. Diane Skornovaki, director of human resources, and Mr. Brian Fike, who serves as our business administrator and board secretary. The meeting minutes are attached. Does anybody have any changes or discussion they would like to make regarding meeting minutes for the April 9, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting or the April 22nd, 2024 board voting meeting? I do actually have a correction that will need to be made to the April 22nd board voting meeting minutes. The vote for the policy 903 was actually erroneously recorded as failed. Roll call vote was asked for, but only the nays were tallied, and unfortunately we missed recording Mrs. Schaefer's affirmative vote. The new policy number 903 is therefore in effect, and we will have public comment for agenda items at the beginning of the CAL meeting, starting with this one. Okay, any other discussion on minutes? Okay, moving on. For amending the agenda tonight, we will be including a couple items. The first is to add a discussion item to the Finance Committee to address the 2024-25 proposed final budget. And in addition, there is a correction to the ESL textbooks that are in the Education Committee. The shipping and handling cost was reduced from $522 to $365.40. So the total cost was reduced to $5,585.40, just for the record. Okay. Moving on, just another announcement I do have is the board did meet in executive session on Monday, May 6th to discuss personnel. Public comments on agenda items. We have no one signed up unless anyone from the audience would like to come up. All right, and then we're going to move on to committees. Education with Dr. Battler.
Forgive me, Mr. Mel. Give me one moment. Unfortunately, my computer was not working, so I brought my husband's, and I am not having problems logging into our system.
No problem. I think Mr. Rugg actually wanted to make public comment. Yes, is that right?
Okay, well, that would be
Is there anything you wanted to talk
if you would
about?
love to, because,
Okay. Oh, I'm
he's
sorry.
good.
I'm
Darn.
sorry. I thought I saw your hand up.
I was so excited there for a moment. Okay, I was like, I will get there as well. I apologize. But, okay, so starting. Ugh. I don't need the extra stuff. Okay. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the following list of staff conferences. There is a list if anybody would like to discuss those. No? Moving on then, it is recommended that, or it is reported that the following field trips have been approved. The 4th grade students from Lorraine traveling to Riften for a visit and orientation. As well as letter C, field trips beyond a 60-mile radius. It's recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the following field trips. The senior high varsity baseball team traveling to Disney Wide World of Sports. Does anybody have any comments or questions on this? No? Okay, moving on. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves an agreement between Sweet Stevens, Katz, and Williams and Exeter Township School District to provide legal consultation services for the period beginning July 1st, 2024, through June 30th, 2025, at a cost of $12,075. Go ahead.
Yep, this is our pool council agreement that we do annually that provides us access to consultation, in-service trainings and micro-trainings from Mr. Warner and Mr. Faust specifically. And examples of some of those trainings that we have done this year and some of that consultation that we've done is having Mr. Warner come and meet with the building administrators to talk about how to be an effective LEA in IEP meetings and having a better understanding of IDEA and FAPE. They've met with our school psychologists to do roundtable discussion regarding challenging cases that they're working on, et cetera.
I have a question. How does this compare with the previous year in terms of dollars?
Slight increase, about $500.
Thank you.
Do we know how many hours they put in the last year?
It's 5 days, 5 full days per the contract. But we don't always book in full days. We sometimes book in half-day increments because they're meeting with different groups and doing different consultation.
And I'm just asking, how is that different than our normal, if we use them under our normal hourly rate? Because this is more expensive than our normal hourly rate.
It's not, because this allows us unlimited access to ask as many questions as we want to ask regarding special education issues, student services issues, et cetera, and provides us that consultation under this contract, as long as we're not talking about individual student negotiations and very specific case negotiations. That's covered under the other contract.
Understood.
So-
So it is more than 40 hours then?
Yeah, so not the training, the
Right.
consultation
But the
part.
entire package
Yeah, the
is more
entire,
than-
thank you.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, thank you for
Okay.
asking that and helping me to clarify. So for example, one of our special ed supervisors could theoretically email Mr. Warner 5 times in one day to ask him 5 separate questions about IDEA. And Mr. Warner would be obligated to provide a response free of charge per this, not free of charge, but per this consultation agreement, free of charge from the separate contract that we have with Sweet Stevens.
That makes more sense.
Does
Thank
that-
you.
okay.
Yep, thanks.
Okay. Moving on. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approve the flexible instruction plan as required by the Pennsylvania State of Education. It is attached. Does anybody have any questions or comments on this?
I do. In most of the sections, I'm assuming that each of these sections, Josh, this is yours, right? It lists an example. Romeo and Juliet is there.
That's correct. So this is every 3 years we have to put in for FID day approval, and this is for us to have them. And part of the PD requirement is that you're listing your assurances of how you're contacting families, what is your attendance procedures, your notification procedures, what does the lesson structure look like, and then you have to provide exemplars from different grade spans and different content areas.
Right,
So
so-
that's not maybe the actual lesson, but that's what a lesson would look like per se
Right.
for
So
FID.
if we were to do that for every lesson, this would be a document several hundred pages long, right?
That's correct. That's
Yeah,
why they just
okay.
asked for
Got it.
a ninth grade ELA one. They asked for a high school social study. So you're just submitting just what would one lesson structure look like.
Got it. I noticed that at the bottom of most of the sections, if not all, talks about students without internet access. Do we have an idea of how many students in our district do not have internet access? And what are we doing to correct it?
So I don't have those exact figures. In the cases where students don't have access in there, we provide offline activities for the students ahead of time. But, we can look into trying to get those specific numbers. But, we provide mobile hotspots if that's necessary. And we work with families to make sure that they can try to get internet access.
Got it.
I'd just like to say ECEF has been really helpful in helping us provide those hotspots. That's one of the things that they've supported us with in the past. So we do have hotspots that are available. Families just need to communicate that to us. And when we, if and when we have to use a FID day, when we send this information out during the year, when we are starting with bad weather, we try and make sure we put that communication out. But because we're one-to-one, families, and so much of their work is done online, we have a great people services team that is in communication with families, especially families who perhaps might be homeless. And we have an amazing social worker, and she works with families to make sure that they have what they need to be successful.
Okay, good, thanks. In going through this, I noticed page 6, a mysterious word appeared, and it doesn't look like it's connected any. The bottom of page 6, the next to last paragraph reads, related services will be provided to students through asynchronous work. Then there's a break, and then there's the word true. And it's like, my God, what's true?
That's not something that's typed. That's, so it's just the way the report goes, is that it's a box check in the system, and then when it gets printed out, because you've checked yes, it gets reported as true. So it's just the how it's coded during the printout.
Okay, thank you.
So if we would have said we did not do that, it would have said false.
Okay, I was looking for the rest of the sentence and pulling what little hair I have left out. All right, so the very next sentence, our public school entity will rely entirely upon a primary plan and will not have a contingency or backup plan. So if the primary plan fails, then a makeup day will be used. What was the thinking behind not having a backup? Wouldn't it make sense to do that, or am I so far
It was
afield?
consistent with what our previous plan was.
Okay,
all
and that's
of our-
allowed by PD?
Yes,
Ah,
yes.
Okay, good, thanks. I spent the last part of my career as a copy editor, so I point this one out with a smile. Under math courses, grades K to 8, on the line that says CC 2.3.4.A.1. Oh, I'm sorry. Page 12. It says, draw lines and angels and identify these in 2D figures. I'm assuming that means that's supposed to be angles.
Yeah, we can, I can change that.
Okay.
You could do snow angels on a snow day, so
Yeah,
you could make it work either way, so.
And Romeo and Juliet's in here too, and there must be an angel in that play somewhere. So is it accurate to read these exemplars, as you describe them, as what would go on in the classroom translated to the electronic world? Is that?
Yeah, to a certain degree. It's not maybe that exact topic, because they may not even be on Romeo and Juliet if we have, if
Exactly.
they're beyond that, but it's kind of that scope, so those are the standards. CC point, 2.1.3.A.1 is a math standard for Algebra 1. But you have its standards aligned, then you have your objectives, and then you have the resources that you use, and then you're listing in there any accommodations that you would make as necessary for students that would require those.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Okay, the gifted students. I counted up that there are several categories which I didn't realize. 135, does that sound about right to everybody at the table?
Number of gifted students in the district? Is that what you're?
Referred to here in the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
how do we compare, and I don't know if you know this, but how do we compare with other districts our size in terms of the gifted population? Are we higher, lower, average?
I don't know.
Okay. Could we find that out?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had. Thanks.
Anyone else? Nope. Moving on. All right. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors authorize the district administration to submit the following required plans to the Pennsylvania Department of Education. The comprehensive plan that we had last month, the induction plan, the professional development plan, and the gifted education plan assurances as attached. Does anybody have any questions or comments based on these?
So per the discussion, last time the graduation rate was increased. So that was taken care of, but there were no other changes made to it. The other three reports that are there are just a requirement to be also approved through the board, and then these would go on public review. And if they are approved during the voting meeting, bless you, during the voting meeting, then we would just need the board president to sign the affirmation document with a number of yeses and nos. Dr. Haller would then sign off on the plan, and that affirmation statement would be uploaded for that. I also forgot to mention the FID plan does require an affirmation signature from the board president with yeses and nos too that gets attached to it for signature as well.
Thank you, Dr. Hoyt. And Mr. Mill. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approve the attached amendments to the Title I Letter of Agreement between Exeter Township School District and the Berks County Intermediate Unit. Upon agreement to this contract, the Berks County Intermediate Unit will provide Title I equitable services to the identified non-public schools listed in the agreement for the 2023-24 school year, revising and extending the original date of June 30th, 2024 to September 30th, 2024.
So this is a previous contract that I brought to you earlier in the fall, based upon recommendations from the IU solicitor. Because Title I funds can be spent up until September 30th, and all of most of the districts in Berks use the IU as the consortium for Title I for non-public schools. They had recommended that to extend this to the September 30th date in the contract, as there are summer programming and funds being spent in that. So there's no change in any funds or anything. It's just simply just adding the 3 months onto it, so that in the case, which some of our non-pubs do some summer programming, that we're within the bounds of the contract fiscally.
Just one question. Up at the top, it says, 2, scope of work, the Berks County Intermediate Unit agrees to provide services pursuant to the scope of work set forth in Exhibit A attached here too. My copy doesn't have the Exhibit A. I was just wondering if that could be added, or if I'm just missing it perhaps.
The Exhibit A is just the table that has the non-pub schools that we provide. So we can get that uploaded on there, but it's a table that we provide services to St. Catherine's, Immaculate Conception, and St. Peter's.
That's on here on the addendum.
Yeah, that's the exhibit.
Okay. I'll look after the meeting. I don't want to hold it.
I can show you, just to show you what that looks like if you want.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, moving on. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approve the LIFT textbooks, which are right here. Introduction Fundamentals, Level 1, Level 2, an online Spark platform published by National Geographic for junior high and senior high school ESL students for the 2024-25 school year. The textbooks will be purchased with Title III funds. It does list that there's 34 student books. Total cost was $5,742. And I'm just looking through this, so I just had a quick question.
Sorry, Dr. Butler,
I'm
too.
sorry.
Just want to point out that that was part of the amendment as well in the beginning of the meeting, so the total cost is actually cheaper because of the reduced shipping. It's $5,585.40.
Thank you, Mr. Mel, I
No,
apologize.
no problem. I just wanted to bring that up again. Thank you.
so
And
much.
what's the shipping reduced to?
Shipping went from $522 to $365.40.
Yeah,
And
It
will
basically
that-
went from 10% to 7%.
Will that be reflected, like, will we correct the agenda for that in case people look online and want to see this?
Yeah, when we amend the agenda, does that mean? When we
I'll
amend the,
defer to the solicitor on this, but yeah,
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, just to make it accurate.
there's the ruling. It's fine.
So we can change this agenda so this way it'll reflect it if people want to go back and look at it. Perfect, thank you.
Dr. Badler, you okay to continue?
All right. Sorry, just had a couple of quick questions for Dr. Hoyt on National Geographic, but I am good. Did anybody else have any questions about the ESL?
could you just pass them around?
Of course I
Yeah, so,
can.
As this is going around, I know it says National Geographic. National Geographic does a lot more in the field of education right now. So this was a vetted resource through our ESL department chair. And this is for our English language development at the secondary level. So this is for students, for English is not their first language. So it's helping with our English language development in our secondary program. And as you are aware, we do receive Title III funding. And Title III funding is specific for ESL, so that's what we're using these funds for these resources.
I completely understand that, and I understand that this is not normal National Geographic, something that you would expect, but when I was looking through it, are these ESL students taking regular ESL classes?
So they're included in are included in all their other classes. This is just an additional class to help to provide English language development.
Okay, because the level of this, I can't imagine how they're keeping up in 9th grade ESL or 10th, or, you know.
Well, we do have certified ESL teacher who's also a content area teacher in the high school, and our teachers do differentiate instruction for students who
okay.
are ESL as well. They work with our ESL teacher in the secondary level, and we also have Mrs. Becky Bush who helps to oversee our ESL programming K-12. So, we do whatever accommodations are necessary because those are required.
Understood. Thank you very much. And while this goes around, if anybody has any questions, they can just bring it up. Okay? All right, sorry. Let me go back to my phone since my computer's not working.
And I do want to thank Mrs. Bush. She has very good negotiation skills.
We appreciate that.
We'll use her for all the textbooks
Yeah,
then.
that's what I was going to say.
Every shipping negotiation
Every
goes
shipping
right through
negotiation
Mrs.
goes
Bush.
now goes through Ms. Becky
Can we
Bush.
record that, please?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approve an addendum to the contract for services agreement between Pediatric Therapeutic Services and Exeter Township School District to provide a bilingual speech therapist for the 2024-25 school year at a cost of $92.49 per hour, which is attached. I just had one question. Did we have this last year?
Yes,
Thank
so
you.
follow this. So PTS is a multi-year contract that we have for some of our contracted speech services. We, like all other districts, occasionally have the need for a bilingual speech therapist. As luck would have it, one of the therapists that we had through PTS was a bilingual speech therapist. So we didn't have to pay extra for any bilingual speech therapy services because the person that they assigned to us happened to be a bilingual speech therapist. That person is being reassigned to a different district closer to where she lives. So we're getting a new speech therapist, but that person is not a bilingual speech therapist. So now, if we need that service, we need to make sure that we have it in the contract, but unfortunately, we need to pay for it by the hour. How'd I do with that one?
Understood. I wish that woman did not have to move back to closer to home.
Yeah, it was not good news when we got that. And she was a great speech therapist too, so we're sorry to lose her.
I'm sure. Okay, any discussion on that? No? It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approve a tuition agreement between Access Learning Academy and the Exeter Township School District to provide alternative education placement for the 2024-25 school year at a total cost of $250 per student per day.
So just a reminder that this is the time of year where you'll see us approve a whole bunch of different services contracts for the upcoming year. We'll do that throughout the summer as well. They are all different because some of them are individual student contracts. Some of them are contracts that are prepaid slots at certain sites. And other contracts are like this one for Access Academy, where they do a blanket agreement with you at the beginning of the year and prior to the start of the school year, and then the agreement is that this is the fee that you pay if you're placing a student there with them the upcoming year.
I don't remember seeing Access School have we used them before? Probably.
We have, they had a
Okay.
different name in previous years. I think they were
Ah.
Access last year as well, but prior to that, they had a different name.
Sorry, I just don't remember it, so I wanted to
okay.
ask. Thank you. Does anybody have any discussion or questions? No? Okay, moving on.
I just have one quick thing.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was startled there. There is no student information on here, or I'm wondering why this is considered executive content, why this isn't in public content.
We've been just putting those things in, we can change it.
Yeah, I think if it's not considered, am I correct? If there's no personnel information on there, then that contract can become public content, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm assuming there's no student, this isn't specifically for a student. right?
No, this
is
is
just
one
a
of the
general-
generic contracts.
Then yes.
Yeah, can we move that then to make sure that it gets?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves a tuition agreement between Kids Peace National Centers Incorporation and the Exeter Township School District for special education services for student 8892324 for the 2023-24 school year at a total cost of $5,780.
Sorry. Which one are we on? Tuition agreement, Kids
Sorry,
Peace?
yes, ma'am.
Oh, yep, that's just a student who is attending there through the end of the school year. Kids Peace is insurance funded first because it's a hospitalization placement. And then as they step down into the school-based program, if they are still in need of that level of intensive service, then the school district picks up that bill.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approve an agreement between Inspired Wellness LLC and Exeter Township School District to provide consistent mental health groups for the 2024, did I skip one?
2.
Sorry, I'm so
That's
sorry.
okay, I know, there's a lot on there.
It's my fault 'cause I'm doing this on my phone, which is not cool.
LESY agreement, and then M.
Okay, so I got Kids Peace, forgive me. Okay, Kids Peace and LES. There we are, I apologize. So now we're on the Pathway School. It is right? Oh, thank you. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approve a tuition agreement between the Pathway School and the Exeter Township School District to provide extended school year services for student 8902324 from July 8th, 2024 through August 9th, 2024, at a total of $8,300.
You'll see a couple of ESY agreements this month and next month. Again, those are typical agreements. Those are for our out-of-district students who require the summer service as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Harris. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approve an agreement between the Richard J. Caron Foundation and the Exeter Township School District to provide student assistance and wellness programs for the period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, at a total cost of $61,567.
Mr. Morgan, I noticed this one's in executive content too, as well as the Inspired Wellness. Neither one of them need to be there either, so we'll move those out as well.
Thank you.
Yep. This is our annual Caron Foundation contract that covers our mandated, state-mandated SAP program and SAP services that we provide to our students, SAP being Student Assistance Program, that provides them with substance abuse and mental health assessments, as well as groups and counseling. If you recall, a couple years back, our chief negotiator, who sounds like she has some competition now with Mrs. Bush, Mrs. Leonard, renegotiated our contracts. So now we have a contract with Caron Foundation and the next one, Inspired Wellness, to do the work that Caron Foundation had been previously doing in total for all of us. So right now, the way our contracts are structured, the Caron Foundation is covering grades 7 through 12. And Inspired Wellness is covering grades K through 6. With that restructuring, we were able to save money on the overall program and services that we're providing. We're able to provide more groups at the K through 6 level than what we were providing. And based on our K through 6 counselor feedback, they are happy with the quality that we are getting in those groups with that service at the reduced cost. So we are continuing that for next year. Inspired Wellness, by the way, was one of the vendors that had a table set up at our Mental Health Awareness Day at the high school last Wednesday. And Alicia will be bringing the student group, Avidum, that organized that Mental Health Day and Mental Health Week at the high school to the May board meeting to talk to you a little bit about their work.
I have a question just for my own clarification. The Caron services, is that for sort of an educational type thing, or is that for students who are having substance abuse problems?
Yep, the second, for students that are having substance abuse and mental health issues.
Okay, thank you.
So it's an identification, assessment, and treatment service.
And do they get the treatment here, or do they then go to Caron, or
It depends on the level of care that's
it.
needed. So once a SAP assessment is conducted, that SAP coordinator determines a level of care along with Mrs. Leonard, and then that's a whole different sort of triage of
Right.
different opportunities that are out there in the community.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves an agreement between Inspired Wellness LLC and Exeter Township School District to provide consistent mental health groups for the 2024-25 school year at a cost not to exceed $23,040. That was just discussed.
And this is another one that'll go on.
Okay. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves a tuition agreement between Cottage 7 Education LLC and Exeter Township School Directors to provide extended school year services for student 8912324 for the period June 24th, 2024 through August 1st, 2024, at a total cost of $2,500.
Should that,
Oh.
school directors, should that be the district, or is that, it says between Cottage 7 Education and Exeter Township School Directors. Is that correct? Is that how it should read? Or is it the Exeter Township School District?
I will I think it's the district.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
So, okay, never mind. We'll have that fixed for the voting meeting then. Yep.
Okay, moving on. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approve an agreement between Lakeside Global Institute and Exeter Township School District to fund the payment of the Trauma 101 and Trauma 102 trainer certifications and training materials for one district staff member, not exceeding a total of $550 during the 2024-2025 school year.
If you recall, trauma-informed training is one of the mandated trainings that we're required to provide to our staff. Ashley Reinhardt is our certified trauma trainer for the district. She's also our social worker. This is just to renew her certification for the year and to allow her access to the training materials. It's a very structured, very specific training. You have to use the slides. You have to go slide by slide and read it to staff and the like. So this accounts for that.
And this one will get moved as well to public.
We're going to have a lot of changes on this one. And finally, it is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves a settlement agreement and release between the parents, individually and on their behalf, and on behalf of their minor child, student 8922324, as proposed, and further authorizes the Board President and Board Secretary to execute the settlement agreement and release on behalf of the district. That is the end of my committee. We'll be moving A, C, D, E, okay, I think all of them but C.
Everything except B is what I
thanks,
got.
yeah, yep,
Okay.
that's what I got too.
No problem. I just
Oh, okay,
was going to give you a shortcut there.
thanks. I didn't realize I went to Q. It's first time ever.
All right, thank you, Dr. Battler. Mr. Morgan, Finance and Audit Committee.
Mr. Mel, looks like we are starting with information session on homestead and farmstead exclusion resolution and our senior citizen tax rebate.
So since we amended the agenda and there was information about the budget, we felt like it made sense to start with the budget and then go into the homestead, farmstead information and volunteer rebate program, so people had a clear path if they wanted to seek an opportunity to reduce their taxes, if that makes sense. Okay. We felt that it would be best for the board and the community to, with the first slide, to jump right in to revisit where we currently are with the budget. As we stated previously, putting a budget together is very challenging for business administrators because it's building it based on what happened the previous year and assumptions you're making about the type of funding that you're going to receive for the current year. So our expenditures are going up. They're a little over $85 million. And the revenue that we are seeking based on a 3.25% increase is a little bit, again, over $85 million. This budget is coming in very, very tight at $167,000, a little bit over on the plus side. And this is assuming that Brian is correct with the level of funding that we're going to be receiving from the state. I did have an opportunity to go to the state go to this Capitol on Tuesday of last week. Brian was there the previous week. The state legislators were very kind and receptive to our conversations. But they've made it clear to us, both Republicans and Democrats alike, that while there is an acknowledgement of a surplus at the state level, that they are not looking to really deplete that surplus because they believe that that also would be irresponsible. While Governor Shapiro's budget gives all school districts a much needed boost, it's not enough for us to not raise taxes. So we are seeking a 3.25% increase. For those members of the community that would like to look at more of a spreadsheet as to how the district is spending the money of the school district, we've added there. So, Joe, if you could just click on that, just so everyone can see what that looks like. So that's basically a breakdown as to what would happen with the $85 million, how the majority of that is being spent. If community members would prefer not to look at the spreadsheet, if we could go back to the presentation and go to the next slide. We've broken it down for everyone. Nothing is on our side today. Let's try again. Having some technical difficulties. This slide, and I'm not sure what the issue is because it was working just fine when we checked it, breaks down the where we get the funding from. So the tax structure as is, the majority of the taxes go directly towards, come directly from the community. As you saw on the other slide, it was the majority, here we go, 67%. The state gives about 32%. And the federal government gives about 1%. So Josh talks about Title I funds. He talks about Title III funds. That's how we're paying for the ESL materials. That's federal funding. That federal funding went down by 1% because that was ESSER funds, and we are no longer receiving ESSER funds. That money is, we have a couple more pots to spend, but it's not included in this budget. It can't be included in this budget. So the local effort is really what funds a school district. So if we could go to the next slide, and again, this is the breakdown for someone who's perhaps more visual as to what the anticipated expenditures are. So we have salaries, which is the biggest portion of the pie, benefits, which we've already talked about, which the majority of the tax increase is attributed to the fact that we had a substantial increase in our insurance premium for the district, coupled with inflation. That has hit the district very hard. We've countered it by making adjustments as a district, so you'll notice that supplies have been reduced by $300,000. In addition to any positions we were unable to fill through attrition, that has caused there to be a significant savings to the district. And last year, we restructured this debt service, and that decreased our debt service by $2 million. In doing so, we were also able to engage with Quandel to complete about $28 million in capital projects, which were very much needed. So that's where we are as far as the increase, where how we get the funds, the revenue to support the school district, and the breakdown of where the money is going. So if we could go to the last slide. So just to put a couple of dates on your radar as to where we are, the 21st is our voting meeting. You'll have to, at that point, adopt the proposed final budget unless the board decides through this discussion this evening that you would like us to take other measures regarding the budget. Seeing that, regardless of what happens on June 12th, unless you add another meeting, you will need to adopt a final budget because by law, budget needs to be passed by June 30th. There's no exceptions for school districts. And on July 1st is when the tax bills will go out.
Dr. Heller, what's the actual attachment that we will see at the voting meeting?
So the actual attachment that you're going to see at the voting meeting are more the PDE forms that Brian needs to submit, but they're not completed yet because he's still waiting on some numbers. So that's not something that he would have completed ahead of time because of potential changes, and Brian can speak more to that.
Right, yep, that's fine, no,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, but it's called the PD 2028. One other thing to note, that from the time you adopt a preliminary or proposed budget and the time you adopt the final budget, you have to have it available for 20 days of public inspection. So that's, and right now we have 21 days between the voting meeting and the next voting meeting.
Mr. Mell, I would think that at this time, you're okay with it, we should do another straw poll just to make sure we know where we're at with everybody in case we need to do more work in the next 2 weeks.
And just to, when you say straw poll, you're looking for everybody's comfort level and percentage, or?
The comfort level that, of moving forward with the 3.25%, or whether or not we need to go back to the administration and work to find more reductions.
Yeah, I'll make it a little bit easier. I'll go around the table and just ask yes or no if you are in agreement with moving forward with 3.25%, assuming a no means you want it lower. But start on your end, Mr. Odom.
I'm good with the 3.25.
Okay?
I had to figure out how to answer that.
Thank you.
Still not totally comfortable with it?
So that's a no? Okay. Mrs. Schaefer?
Yes.
Okay. I am a yes. Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Fiddler?
I'm a reluctant yes.
Okay, reluctant yes is still a yes. All right. Yeah, so we, and obviously Dr. Herring is not here, but yeah, we have 7 of 8.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions for Dr. Heller before we move on?
I would just like to say on behalf of the school administration, I appreciate the board's support through this budget process. We knew it was going to be challenging, but we didn't expect it to be this challenging. And while we did eliminate positions through attrition, we were able to keep programs intact. And that is really important for a good school and a strong community. So on behalf of the administration, on behalf of the teachers, and most importantly on behalf of the students that we serve, thank you, because that is our priority. So moving on to the next presentation, we understand very clearly that the tax burden rests mostly on the shoulders of our community members. And so in thinking through that and suggestions from the school board as to things that we can present to the community to lessen that tax burden, we wanted to give you an update on the Homestead Farmstead Act and then our senior volunteer program. So we're going to start with the Homestead Farmstead Act, and I'm actually going to have Brian really kind of talk more through this, as this is a little technical and I don't want to provide misinformation.
I'll try not to make it technical. This is the money that's collected by the state through the lottery and gambling sales tax that they pass on to everyone. Every year on May 1st, they tell us how much is available. This year was almost $900 million, and then they break it down by municipality and what we would get. Our portion of that $900 million would be $2,013,708.83, plus another $16,000 or so for people working in Philadelphia, what they call the Sterling tax credit. The Sterling tax credit, basically, if you work in Philadelphia, you're paying about 4%. We weren't getting anything because it all went to the city. They have to give a little bit back to make up for what we were losing from our local income tax. Interesting to note, last year the Sterling tax credit was $7,800. Pre-pandemic is $24,000. Now it's back up to almost $17,000. So people are actually being called back into the city or have to work from the city. During the pandemic, they weren't working there, so they didn't have to pay the tax. So then that money that they give us is divided among the property owners that had filed for the homestead farmstead rebate, if you want to call it a referendum or reduction. There's roughly 64. Do you have that slide with those numbers?
It's the last slide.
Okay.
Before we get into that, we just want to share with people how you can apply.
Right.
Because that's the part that we think is most important, how you can actually apply for this. So for most homeowners are eligible to apply for the homestead farmstead tax exemption. In order to do that, you need to file that application by March 1st. And you can find applications online, but for our community members who might not have a comfort level with completing or don't have access to complete it online, we have paper copies here at the administration building for people to complete. We just want to make sure that everyone knows how to get that. So if we can move to the next slide, this is the benefit of filing one of those applications. So as Brian said, we received about $2 million from the gaming portion, over $16,000 for the Philadelphia tax credit. And at this time, we have over 6,000 homesteads or applications that have been put in and 37 farmsteads. So what Brian had to do was he had to go and figure out, again, assuming that the 3.25 would pass, what that increase looks like, and then look at the total contribution of both the gaming piece as well as the Philadelphia tax increase. And for each of those individuals that completed an application and that application was accepted, they get a $313.40 reduction on their taxes. Now, obviously, the more people who apply, the less of the reduction that you will receive. However, it is an opportunity for some tax relief that the state does provide.
And one thing to note, this is residential owner-occupied property. It's not rental properties, and you're only allowed to claim one residence for the. Once you apply, you're always on there. But if you change, sell the house or something else might change, a spouse might be taken off or something, then they'll usually send you out a new form. Every December, the county will send out to anyone that was not approved before, in case there's a change of circumstances that they could be approved. But if you don't get that by end of December, we have forms at this office, or you can call the county up and they'll mail you a form. But they have to be, I think it's March 1st, submitted back to the county.
And all the information that everyone is going to need to do it is going to be on our website, as is this PowerPoint, so families can see who are interested in applying for this, how to go about it. So that's all there for them. The second piece of this.
One other thing I did want to say, with the increase of gaming tax revenue, last year the homestead reduction was $257 and some odd cents. So it did go up from the 700 million to 900 million. It went from 257 to 313.
So again, it's a way to reduce your taxes. The second opportunity that individuals could have to reduce their taxes is through the Senior Citizen Rebate Program. So this is a program that has been in place for a number of years. Based on recommendations from the school board, we are re-promoting this, and initially when this was rolled out, it was 100 hours for the person to receive a $5.99 rebate. And you may recall from the firefighter tax conversation about if it's over a certain amount, then they have to file another form. And certainly senior citizens aren't looking to do that when they're trying to reduce their taxes. So we've kept it at $5.99. And we reduced the hours to 70 hours of volunteer work. So the areas where people can volunteer are shelving library books, assisting students with lunches, making copies, gardening and weeding. We would love to have community members in our buildings to assist with those things. They can see, what is happening in our buildings. We can go to the next page. And again, how can people apply? So applications will be open July 1 for senior citizens, provided that the school board would like us to keep the 70 hours, or if you would like for us to adjust it more, we can do so. You can pick up applications here at the administration building, and volunteers must be willing, because it's law, they have to complete their criminal check, their child abuse, and the FBI. So they're going to have to do all of those things. At each person's seat, there you have in front of you a pamphlet, a volunteer pamphlet. So we created that to hopefully entice people, and this will be on our website too, to provide information. As you know, we have a very active food pantry that's run by Reformation Church that operates out of our building. And it's, you know, if you're here on a Friday where they do a give, you'll notice that there are a number of senior citizens here. Provided that the board is okay with us moving forward, it doesn't require a vote. This is not something that you would necessarily need to vote on, because in the policy of the district, it only mentions 60, the age 60. We would like to be able to get these brochures made and clean up the application and have work with the food pantry with Karen Williams and have them hand them out to any senior citizens that are coming through the food pantry. So this is an opportunity for them to reduce their taxes.
Dr. Haller, is it possible we could also have them at other organizations such as the Exeter Library?
Sure. Yeah, we're happy to do that, and we can also speak to local churches and ask them if they wouldn't mind, having them in their churches as well and announcing it. We're happy to do that.
Dr. Howard, do you know how many people are currently participating in the program? How many
Right
senior-
now, we have none.
Nobody's doing this? Wow.
I think
Okay. Thank you.
from my understanding, it depleted after COVID. Is that right?
And we have very few people, even prior to that, that were willing to do it. But the economy looked a little bit different, and so now that the economy has changed and inflation is so high, there might be a renewed interest in getting back into volunteer for the rebate.
Any particular reason why no one did it? I mean, is it the amount of hours before?
So we never had a huge number of people that were willing to do it. And I don't know why either way. The way it worked before is it was run out of the business office, and the secretary to the business administrator would contact the building principal to let them know they had an interest in volunteering. We honored the request of the senior citizens if some would walk. So they would prefer like Jacksonville or Lorraine. So we try to make sure we honored that. But after the pandemic, during the pandemic we weren't letting anybody in, and so I think people now after 4 years just kind of forgot that this existed.
And why the 70 hours?
So it really is aligned to, it's supposed to basically not be less than your minimum wage. And so the minimum wage in Pennsylvania, believe it or not, is $7.25 still. And so 100 hours just seemed like a lot to ask of a senior citizen. And we didn't know if maybe that was part of their not interested in doing it. 70 hours seems to be a little bit more reasonable. But if the board would like to do something else, that's, up to you.
Can we make sure that this presentation and the budget presentation get attached to the agenda?
Sure.
Just in case people want to look here and
Yep.
don't have to go to two different places.
That's
Thank
no
you.
problem.
Anybody else have anything? Dr. Haller, thank you for your time.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Okay, appointment of voting delegates, PSBA Delegate Assembly. It is recommended the Board of School Directors appoint the following delegates, maximum of 2, to participate in PSBA Delegate Assembly. So, don't all jump at once.
I've done it the last 2 years.
You have several new board members that would like to volunteer, maybe?
It is a few hours out of your time on a Saturday morning, and you can join via Zoom, and it's interesting to watch and be a part of.
Thank you, Mrs. Bloom.
We need one more.
I will be default if
Travis
Dr.
has got his
Herring
head
does not
down,
want to do
pretending
it.
like he's not here.
Mr. Odom, did you volunteer? Did you say anything?
Yes, we'll get you a reminder.
Once you're signed up, Mrs. Bloom, you'll receive an email from PSBA, and you'll receive a lot of information, a Zoom link, all that kind of stuff. So I will be a default if no one else wants to do it. I don't know if Dr. Herring had expressed any interest. Or if she's our BCIU.
BCIU representative is Mr. Fiddler. She's COLA. Oh, yeah, she is COLA, so maybe, I mean,
We can
we
add-
can add her and
Yeah,
amend
we
it
can
at the
ask her,
voting
if
meeting.
Mr. Odom isn't interested, we can ask her. Mr. Odom's mic isn't working.
It works. And just unfortunately, I have other things on the November 2nd. And that is very true.
Let's ask Dr. Herring, if not.
Okay, so for tentatively, Dr. Hearing, and then Mrs. Bloom has graciously
Yes.
decided to
Perfect.
volunteer for that. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Food Services Budget 24-25, recommended the Board of School Directors approve the final budget for Food Services Department. $2,462,081 in budget expenditures of $2.379981. Does anybody have any questions?
I actually do. On the spreadsheet that's attached, it said the budget in 23-24, which would be this current year, that we're gonna have a surplus of $371,000. But the revenue minus the expenditures did not match $371,000. Is there something I'm missing there? Maybe I don't know how to read. That's a process.
No, I'll have to check that. But I think that 23, 24, there was actually additional money that was given for supply chain issues. So that was added to the end, and it probably should show up in the revenues, but it was additional federal money as that COVID money.
It just matched the exact dollar amount for the 21-22 budget difference.
Yeah, I'll double check that spreadsheet. One other thing to note, that this does not come out of the general fund. It's mostly federal and state funded, and local revenue is meals sold to students and also catering.
So we'll get that checked out, Mr. Odom, and get your response back. Any other questions? All right, moving on to D, food services meal prices. Recommend the Board of Directors approve the 24-25 Exeter Township School District meal pricing, an increase of 10 cents per meal. Weighted average price based on adjusting the school year is 2% rate increase plus the consumer price index of 8.27%. So it sounds like our meals are going up a dime, is that correct?
Yes, the federal government requires you to use the lunch equity tool to make sure our students are paying what they reimburse for free and reduced, so that everyone's paying the same. And the tool this year said we'd have to go up a 10-cent increase on both breakfast and lunch across the board. And that's probably because the cost of supplies and goods and services went up a lot.
Anybody have any questions about that? All right, moving on. Fox Rothschild Engagement Agreement. Recommended the Board of School Directors approve the engagement from Fox Rothschild LLP to provide general human resources, employment, labor relations, and personnel advice, Exeter Township School District. Engagement agreement is attached. And I believe this is a renewal, correct?
We've used them, yes, and yes.
And is their rates going up at all, do we know? From last year?
260, it was going up, it's 260, and I think it was 250 last year.
Okay.
I believe it is, yes, but I can confirm that.
It says a 4% increase in the fee arrangement section. Would be on page 2.
Yeah, effective July 1st, 2024.
Anybody have any questions about this? For the board members that are new, just, we use two different agencies for different things, two different law firms for two different things, in case anybody had any. All right, moving on. F, Sweet Stevens, Katz, and Williams fee agreement for 24-25 as attached, and they are our solicitor. Does anybody have any questions on this agreement? Okay, moving on. Creation of an ad hoc committee. I was recommending the Board of School Directors approve the creation of an ad hoc committee to assess the benefits of the district of using solar energy. I think I could take this one. We've looked into this before. It is a monumental amount of time on the board and the administration to do this and to access information. We thought that it might be better as we start to look into this, not only look into the solar, but to look into, you know, what the grants are, where we're at with grants, what our confidence is that if we went forward with this, we would get a grant, that we would use an ad hoc committee to start to detail that information out, as well as if we wanted to invite either the St. Lawrence Borough or the Exeter Township in to see if we could work with them as we build out this system. Obviously, nothing is definite yet, nor by forming the committee, we also would not have to exclusively use train. We could research other things. I think that from my standpoint, before we develop a committee and go down the road of doing all the work, it would be best to understand if the board had an appetite to consider moving forward with solar, or if we're happy with where we are, because I do think that whoever's on the committee, that it'll be a significant amount of work as we work through it.
So, again, I think straw poll going
think
around.
that would be best.
Okay. So yes or no, if you're in favor of creation of the committee and continuing discussions of solar, say yes. Otherwise, if you want to bail out of that, say no. Mr. Fiddler, I'm going to start on your side.
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs.
Yeah.
Wilson?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Morgan?
No.
Okay. I am a yes. However, my issue still is with, I really don't want to dig in any deeper until we know the House bill is going to actually pass. So I am a yes, but I am still very reluctant to spend a lot of time on this until later in the year. It's a reluctant yes, actually. And I really think that caught on, John. But it's still a yeah. Stop using my words against me. Mrs. Schaefer.
I'm twofold. I would like to see a committee kind of look at alternative energy sources other than just solar, but I also do have my reservation with regards to solar and this bill, so I'm 50-50.
Okay. So that's a reluctant yes as well. Okay. Okay, great.
Currently, I think it's a waste of time, and I'm with a no.
All righty. Mr. Odom?
I'm a reluctant yes.
Okay. All right.
Very reluctant.
And again, this is just to create an ad hoc committee. Really nothing, there is no obligation or guarantee that we're moving forward with solar. This is really just to, the benefit here is you can have conversations in a public forum within a committee, and we're not also burdening the entire board, with any of those discussions that may occur, so.
If I could just ask a question about moving forward with next steps. As we mentioned at one of the board meetings previously, we are going to be meeting with Devopar about scheduling, and we have been in contact with them, and they might be able to also act as a consultant on behalf of the board regarding just giving some guidance regarding solar and what does that look like. So if they can't do it, they might be able to provide recommendations. As part of this committee, do you want a consultant in place? Because that will be at a cost to the district if that is something that you want to pursue, just so we know where to go with this conversation.
Well, let's start with this. Mr. Mel, I will chair the committee. I think that we need, I'd like to see 2 other board members, so we have a committee of 3, if that's fair. And then we can work with the
yeah.
administration. So before, I will get to your question. So I do need 2 people to volunteer to be on the committee with me.
And that doesn't necessarily need to happen right now. I think that could.
Okay, we can work through that.
We
yeah.
can work through that.
Yep, that's fine.
And I'm already an ex officio member as the president, so, yeah,
Perfect.
so it would be me and then 2 other members that would like to join,
And then,
including yourself.
just to be clear, this, when this committee met, we would meet in public, is that correct? They would be publicly announced meetings.
Yeah, that would be the intention of it.
Right.
Yep.
And then, I will tell you, Dr. Haller, my feeling is that I don't know that it's the right time to look into a consultant when we're not even at the point where we know that we want to move forward with it. That would be my own personal thought. I mean, I think we need information. I think if we're at the point where we want to take next steps, then we want to make sure that the steps we're taking are are in the best interest of the taxpayers in the district. But for right now, I think that it's best to just information seek. I think to Mr. Mel's point, we need to make sure that we have a confidence level that the way that the grants and the funding are going to go, that it would even happen. I would say that I do not, and I'd like to hear the board's opinion about this as well. I know that at the last meeting, we spoke about an August timeframe. I do not feel the pressure to feel like we have to make a decision by August. If something changed, we could bring that to the board through committee, but I don't think that we need to expedite this that much at this time.
I would be in that camp because, my opinion, given that it sounds like we're not even sure if the bill is going to pass until September timeframe, I do not want to commit to anything before that.
Yep, understood. Does this need to go to vote to have an ad hoc committee?
I don't believe so. I believe when we created the revenue committee that Mrs. Schaefer chaired, it was just a discussion and a central straw poll, and the committee was created.
Okay, very good. Well, we'll report back next meeting after we discuss who will be on the committee, and then I'll get with Mr. Fike and Dr. Haller, and we can discuss next steps for our first meeting.
Sounds good.
Dr. Haller, anything else? Is that good? Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. And then but I know we talked about budget first, but on the agenda, I guess we'll put that as number H. Is that, we'll go with letter H, not number H. Does that work for you? Perfect. Well, this way we don't have to move everything. All right, perfect. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mel.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Moving on to Facilities and Transportation Committee with Mr. Fidler.
Thank you, Mr. Mel. First item A, donation. It is recommended that Board of School Directors approve the donation of weight room equipment to the Exeter Township Police Department. I'll turn to Mr. Fike. Do we know how much, what kind of equipment? Are we talking a couple of dumbbells, or what are we talking about?
Actually,
Sign me
it's
up
pretty
for
much a
dumbbells.
lot,
Yes,
a lot of dumbbells.
It's a 5-pound weight and a jump rope. That's
And
Yeah, exactly.
and the capital project, weight room A is being totally redone. And all the old dumbbells and benches are going to be scrapped, if you want to call it that. I believe the police department has a separate room that the first responders moved over across the street, so they're building their own little training room. They're not going to use everything that we have there, but
Oh, kind of
give them
pick and
first
choose?
choice,
Yeah, got it.
before,
Okay.
because the metal's scrap metal, right?
Got it.
Yep.
And then whatever they don't take, we would would give it over to a scrap hauler or whatever?
Correct.
Yeah, got it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask that we at least, you're suggesting that there may be weights and dumbbells that would be going to scrap?
Yeah, well, first, what I would do is I'd put it on municipal bid or someone.
I was gonna ask if we could do that, because I think that we could get more money
Most-
for them than
Yeah,
scrap.
a lot of times, though, that stuff's picked up by scrappers, but, because people don't have the equipment to move it,
Right.
but I would go into municipal bid before, because that way I have to prove that it's not valued as is, that I can get, then take it to the scrapyard.
Well, and I think
Yep.
we would find that especially dumbbells have value,
Yep.
and they go pretty quick, so hopefully we can sell them if they don't use them.
All right. Item B, Metasys and HVAC service renewal. Recommended the Board of School Directors approve the Metasys and HVAC service renewal. The current contract expires the end of June. And the contracts are there for review. Any questions? I guess the only question I have, Mr. Fike, is how will these contracts be wrapped into, not so much the capital work, but the maintenance, the ongoing maintenance programs that we've committed to, once the capital projects are done? Is this part of that, these?
This is part of that.
Got it,
This is
okay.
actually existing. The stuff that's under the maintenance comes with a 1-year warranty, so we don't need a contract here. That's
Got it.
theirs. Just, because they have to constantly come out to take care of it. But this is basically to make sure we're taking care of it. I think you and I talked that down the road, we're going to have to look at things that we weren't doing before, like oiling motors and stuff every
Yeah.
8 to 10 years, to keep the light
Right.
30+ years.
Absolutely, yeah,
So,
good.
just like our maintenance, bus maintenance facility, we're gonna have to either send our mechanics to training to be able to work on the propane lessons. Right now, they're still under warranty, because they have a 9-year warranty.
Okay.
Years, they're gonna have to start working on it themselves.
Right.
Some impact on that.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, thank you. And item C, non-public and BCTC bus routes. Recommended that the Board of Directors discuss the best option for the non-public and BCTC bus routes. The district has received information from the following: Klein, Durham, and BCIU, and the information from each organization is attached. If I recall, Klein didn't offer very much.
Actually, Klein would not bid unless we gave him a 3-year contract.
I see.
And we're only looking at 1 year at a time, because hopefully the employment situation will change, that eventually we'll be able to fill our own drivers and use our own buses.
So we're really just selecting between two options instead of 3.
And it looks like BCIU is the best price on those
Yeah,
runs.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that who we're using right now, or do we,
Pretty much everything's BCIU. I think they had an advantage the previous years, so I'm not sure if they're doing next year, but on certain runs, they're also able to tie, we're actually cheaper because they're able to tie in some of the Antietam runs, like the BCTC West and their kids, riding the same bus.
All right, so all 3 of those items, Mr. Mel would move on to the voting meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler. Personnel Committee, Mrs. Wilson.
okay. Under the personnel, we, first, we will have our resignations. There's, 2 support staff and 2 extracurricular staff listed. And then retirements, a paraprofessional, Ms. Bixler, after 26 years at Jacksonville Elementary, and Mrs. Gajewski, cafeteria aide at Jacksonville, after 37 years of service. So we thank them for their service. I guess both of them at the end of this school year. Appointments of administrative staff, support staff, and guest teacher. Change of status of support staff and food service staff. And then 2 certificated staff additional service, additional assignments for homebound instruction. one employee requesting a leave of absence. And then there is an MOU with the Exeter Township Education Association, clarifying language regarding sick leave bank, and then extended contracts. Is there any questions? Are there any questions, I should say? Okay. That's everything then.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Wilson. And Policy Committee, Dr. Hearing is obviously not here, but Mrs. Harris, are you okay to take that?
Absolutely. So we have two policies added in for revision. Policy 810, the transportation policy. The only change on this policy is the addition of a citation leading you to the regulations and statutes. There's a citation that was added allowing for cameras on bus stop arms, allowing, not requiring. Policy 819 is also on for revision. That's the Suicide Awareness, Prevention, and Response Policy. PSBA did a really nice overhaul of this policy. They expanded the definitions section. They aligned this policy with many of the other policies that have been revised based on all of the recent school safety regulations and laws, threat assessment regulations, and mental health regulations as well. So there, you'll see there's updates in there regarding methods of prevention, methods of assessment and intervention, and response to suicide attempts. There's also an expanded and updated resource section at the end of the policy. Obviously, this isn't the only place that we have where families are able to go and access that kind of information, but it is nice that they included the state and national resources in the policy as well.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Harris. Next will be public comment on non-agenda items. No one has signed up, but would anyone from the audience like to come up? I'm sorry, was that a hand? No, okay, sorry, I just want to be sure. And, all right, so we're going to move the following items to our May voting meeting, meeting minutes, and then we're going to do 4A through Q, except B, 5B through F, 6A, B, C, and 7A through H. Are there any board members that would like to be heard at this time? Go ahead.
Mr. Mel, I just, real quick, like to once again thank the administration for all their work that they've done with this budget this year. I know that nobody likes getting a tax increase. I certainly don't. But, you know, I think that we've heard and done a good enough job to understand where we need to be and why we need to be there. And I would just ask the public to continue to reach out to us if they have any questions or concerns. The data is available on the website. We're certainly available by email, available at meetings twice a month. So just want to say that we appreciate everything that you guys have done, given the circumstances that you've been given. I know that if you didn't have to, you wouldn't want to either. And I'd also like to wish the teachers Happy Appreciation Week and the nurses Happy Nurses Week. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Mr. Odom, I know you had something?
Just a shameless plug, boys lacrosse tomorrow night at Wilson. They have not beat Wilson. Tomorrow night may be the first time.
All right,
County championship.
here's
sorry.
hoping.
I have a shameless plug, too. Exeter Volleyball plays on Saturday night at home. They had an undefeated season. This will be the semifinal round of counties. So it's 5 o'clock at Exeter. If we would win that, we can, the county championship would also be at Exeter on Tuesday.
All
So
right, great news.
mark your schedules.
Yeah, and Dr. Haller would, I think she has a shameless plug she'd like to go with now?
Not a shameless plug, but a big thank you. I'd just like to say thank you to all of our educators for Teacher Appreciation Week. everything that you do, for my own child included and the 2 children who have passed through Exeter already. Teachers make a difference. And if you've been following along with our Facebook page, Jen Breton, our PR director, has done just an amazing and outstanding job with the student interviews that she did with a number of our seniors regarding their experience here in Exeter, and teachers who have made an impact. And if you had an opportunity to watch them, our staff really does make a difference. And it's about, they're not going to remember the work that they did, but they're going to remember that the time that someone took to make a relationship with them, and just the thought and the care that they provided them while they were a student here in Exeter. And we hope that they take that with them and move on to have a very successful life here after Exeter, but not forget us. And if they're going for education, we hope that they come back, so that they love us enough to come back. So thank you to all our educators.
Okay, Mr. Fiddler, thank you.
I want to
Dr.
be
Heller.
here all night. No, I just wanted to offer my congratulations to the administration, to the teachers, and to the students especially for the Exeter Games. I saw the largest number of students that I've seen since I've been going to them cheering on their classmates, and I just thought it was fantastic. And to Mrs. Harris and your crew for the entire week, the Wednesday with all the tables and all the information, and those interminably long lines at the ice cream trucks. But really, I think it shows where we are, that mental health is now a part of the school day. And we never, at least when I was here a million years ago, nobody gave it a thought. Now we have to. And I think we're doing a great job with it. So I just wanted to thank you.
Very well said. That's all credit to the Student Services team here in the district.
I will put in one little plug as well. Mr. Fiddler, earlier this year, you had asked for the Berks Science Olympiad students to come to the board meeting, so they will be coming with Mr. Lasky for the voting meeting in May. And also, I did want to congratulate today, Dr. Haller had mentioned about cake, but our new teachers did complete their induction program today. So I would like to congratulate our teachers for completing that through their 2-year program, and they did earn their induction certificates today.
Thanks. Look forward to seeing the Science Olympiads.
All right. So apparently there's going to be cake. That's all I heard. But anyone else have any shameless plugs or any other discussion that they would like to make?
I would like to congratulate the softball team on clinching the title, since that was not mentioned, and I
Very
believe the
good.
track, boys track as well.
Yes. Okay. Anything else? All right. Our next meeting will be our voting meeting on Tuesday, May 21st at 7 p.m. If there are no objections, we'll adjourn the meeting. And hearing none, meeting